This conversation is sponsored by MedLabs.
This is what I know. We're all connected to one another, the earth and all her inhabitants. We thrive on these connections, real ones that touch our soul, fill our heart, and invigorate our mind. I have been so fortunate to experience this all my life, meeting extraordinary, ordinary folks who inspire and provoke. My name is Khadija Muhaisen. Welcome to Adventures of the Soul Conversations. My hope is that they will fill your cup as they have filled mine. My guest for this conversation is Zeina Sahyoun, Head of Community Building at MedLabs. You're probably wondering what community building and healthcare have to do with each other. This is in fact the reason why we sat down for this chat. When I first met Zeina, we talked about meditation. She left me impressed and intrigued. She is the manifestation of when science meets spirituality. I needed to dig more. I discovered that 20 years after its establishment in Jordan, MedLabs underwent a spiritual awakening of its own, embarking on a mission to humanize and revitalize the moral core of its corporate culture, transforming itself into an integral, holistic enterprise that cares about its employees and patients. This conversation is an eye and heart opener for anyone interested in personal growth. It's also essential for our human evolution in the 21st century, when the world is rapidly changing, relying on artificial intelligence and the advancement of biotech and infotech, leaving individuals and corporations grappling with existential questions about their roles and core beliefs. Zeina was adamant this conversation not be about her, but about MedLab's journey to rediscover its core beliefs, to rethink marketing into community building, and realign itself to become a more human-centric, caring company that nurtures healthy society. But the truth is we can never separate the part from the whole. The company's transformation has realigned Zeina and all 400 of its employees. Zeina is a molecular biologist with an MBA, currently working on her PhD at the International Transform Institute on Integral Enterprises. To set off the conversation, I opened with a quote from Yuval Harari's 21 Lessons for the 21st Century. Unfortunately, at present, we're not doing much to research and develop human consciousness. We're researching and developing human abilities, mainly according to the immediate needs of the economic and political system, rather than according to our own long-term needs as conscious beings. And it really made me think of you and what you do. To backtrack just a little bit, I remember the first time we spoke, it was really, really strange for me that someone who is coming from the health sector and the business world was talking about mindfulness and meditation. And I think you were telling me about your studies, your PhD work. And I was taken aback that somebody in this sector, in the business world, was even speaking about mindfulness and meditation. So maybe we should start by you telling me about what you're doing right now, and then we'll take it into the work. We'll talk about MedLabs.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me.
Oh,
it's really an honor and a pleasure to talk about our journey. So I've been with MedLabs. It's a local laboratories company that's been around for 25 years. And just like any company, it went through phases of evolution, so those pioneering 10 years of excitement, when the founders really felt that the one-man show model of business in lab medicine was really limited, and no one lab director is really an expert in all fields of lab medicine, just like no one doctor is a cardiologist and a pediatrician and the idea was the time had come for a group practice model to be built, where under one roof you'd have all the specializations and you'd have better patient care, you'd have better pooled resources for more accurate results and better equipment, etc., etc. So MedLabs was created, and there was this excitement for 10 years, and then suddenly we went from 4 labs to 25, and there was a real need for systemization. So it's managing 30 staff is not like 150. And so they embarked on another 10 years or so of getting accreditations, putting standards, policies, procedures, etc. All with this culture of the end outcome being caring for patients and delivering the most accurate results so doctors could make the right diagnosis and treatment. After 20 years, and I had been there already around 12 years or 10 years at that point.
And you come from a scientific
yes, come back
background.
From, yeah. So my background is genetics and molecular biology, but I also worked in an FMCG in London for a while and Beirut, and then I did an MBA. So it's kind of, I have a combination. So then we felt that somehow the morale of the staff and the excitement was not like it was when the flame was first ignited in the pioneering years, which is understandable and which is something that a lot of companies go through. And stagnate, or the buy-in. Do the staff really, come and go the extra mile with patients, especially because our clients are patients. It's very sensitive, or are they just doing 9 to 5 and leaving? And so this question really started bothering us, and we looked at all the traditional HR, increase the incentives or do this plan or the other, but really what it came down to is what our CEO and founder had always believed through his whole career, that companies fall into the trap of losing humanity in the workplace.
Human consciousness.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that loss of the sense of humanity in the workplace really sparked a journey that MedLabs has been on for the last 5 years. So the CEO and the vice CEO who took on this journey to begin with, the vice CEO actually became a PhD student with these consultants who we work with in Europe, the Transform Center, and they believe in integrality, integral health, integral management.
Yeah, can I stop you there? Because I think we were talking about this before we started taping. So I come from this whole approach that I have this holistic thinking, holistic approach, holistic perspective. And by whole, I say I mean the WHOLE. So all along, as I was thinking about your journey and what you're doing, the one thing that comes to mind is holistic. And then as I was reading some background material, I find that you use integral a lot, and integral. And I think we were just trying to debate what the definitions were. So give me yours, and then we'll see if I think we're talking about the same thing.
I'm sure we are. I mean, an integral approach is really integrating all the aspects of what in the Transform Management Center that we worked with.
The parts.
So, and in its approach, it is holistic.
Yes.
Right? And in going through the journey, the integral journey to become an integral enterprise or an integral health system or whatever, integral person even, you're taking a holistic approach to doing that. So, for example, in our case,
the whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
The whole is definitely. So we decided. We said, okay, what we need to do is, number one, go back to why we exist. Number two, assess whether our staff all know that. Right?
So when you say why you exist, are you talking about core values?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mainly the core values. What was our inspiration? What are we setting out to do? On an emotional, spiritual level, right? Not just the bottom line.
Yeah, I don't think I have ever spoken to anyone, and especially in this part of the world, actually anyone, that speaks about the spiritual aspect when it comes to business.
Well, what we found actually is that when we redefined, that we want to care for patients and that we want to do good in the community and that we want to nurture a healthy society, that's our ultimate aim. It starts with the individual. So the model on this integral path is first the self, and then the organization, then the community, and then the society as a whole. And it's kind of a healing process, right? So we started asking people, why did you study medical laboratory science? And people say, no one ever asked us that, or what's your inner calling? And so many people say, what do you mean by inner calling? You ask it in Arabic in our society.
I mean, Zeina, you ask people who are graduates of sciences about inner calling, and to them this is something completely alien.
Absolutely.
But even for you, I remember we spoke a few days ago, and you told me that you were undergoing a certain exercise that was forcing you to really sit and think. These are really difficult questions and something impossible, let alone to come and ask some, people in our culture, in our part of the world, to think about core values or to even think about purpose. And how does this relate to my job? And this whole approach about compartmentalizing my work life versus my personal life, my humanity versus I don't know if it's the culture here to think of ourselves as human consciousness when it comes to the business world,
yeah,
the work.
absolutely.
That business.
And that's what we try to do. So
which
we
is
said-
unheard of.
Unheard of. So we actually ask people إيش الدافع الداخلي أو إيش خلاك تدرس هذا؟ And they would say, والله هذا اللي طلع لي بالمعدل, right? So and this is my average from my توجيهي score got me into this. And then we probe further. We say, okay, we understand that this is the culture, but that average could have got you into IT or literature. Why did you choose lab medicine? There must be a reason why you went into biology or health that is linked to some greater purpose. And so a lot of people were forced to sort of look inwards when maybe they had never done so before and assess whether this is really something they believe in, they have a passion for, they love, and are they in the right place? Does it fulfill them that they come and
did
work?
you feel when you were going through this, and because I read that you actually, this has taken a while, and this is something you've been institutionalizing in your work. What was the initial response, and did people want to quit?
Nobody wanted to quit. There was definitely a sense of,
what are they doing?
These people have gone to La La Land. I mean, what's all this fluffy talk about inner calling and emotions, etc. Some really resisted. Like, I don't have time for this. What does this have to do with, work? I have work to do. I have to go home. I don't have time. But slowly, especially when they saw that the leadership was going on this journey, fully invested, and really believed that the outcome for everyone would be a sense of fulfillment for the self, for each and every individual in MedLabs, as well as the organization.
Because you're not separate from any of it.
Because we're all part of this integral, holistic entity. And so, following the 4 worlds path that these professors at Transform
which is the program you're doing now,
that we did at MedLabs and that we're doing now for our next project.
And now this is your PhD work.
It's the basis of my PhD. Yeah. We broke up our management into a southeast, northwest. So their approach to everything is global in abstract, let's say, imagination. Okay. So if you think of the south of the world, it's Africa comes to mind, right? Which is a very community-based society. You think east, it's pretty spiritual. You have all your Taoism and Buddhism all comes out of there. You go north and think European. It's very research and but also they documented things over history and then the West is very enterprise and business and American. So we looked at our business model and we said, all right, so
where were you in this when you first looked at
marketing?
Where was the company in this northeast west south?
The whole company was northeast west south. So that's what I'm saying.
When you first started looking at
we were northwest, right? Science and business. There was absolutely no touching on community and sense of self. There was no going to the east with exploring your purpose and your higher thinking. As most companies, it's very American model, right? Or Western model. I mean, there are some fantastic American
companies,
models.
Most schools,
most
homes.
Thank you. Most approaches to everything is the enterprise thinking and the northern. I've got stuff to do and places to be and based on skills, exactly what you were saying, as opposed to like being. And so we took each section of the company and we broke it up. We said, all right, HR, marketing, finance, and all the operations need to evolve to a higher level thinking.
Of consciousness.
Right.
Yes.
So we said marketing is going to go from marketing, sales, advertising to community building.
And you actually changed the name.
And we actually changed the name. We said, but then, the staff was like, what the heck is community building? How is that related?
How do you define community? Because there's now, I read a lot and there's now a movement that says community by definition is discriminatory and isolationist. Because when you, by definition, community is a group of people that are similar in their values, in their beliefs, and by definition, this will alienate others who don't necessarily share this. I don't believe this.
I don't believe it either. And certainly a community is a group of people who have to share something, but actually the more diverse, the more interesting.
So maybe what they share, going back to the issue of human consciousness, is they probably share this openness to explore and recognize that there is a part to us that is
what we say is the shared community value is humanity. That's the shared value.
So I think your humanity is the human consciousness and emotional skills that Yuval Harari talks about in his book. The premise of this, actually, Zeina, let me tell you, because it's very much in line with what you're doing. And if he's saying this is, this is what is happening in the 21st century, and we're talking about this in the next 5 years, 10 years, this is not too far off. You guys are in the lead. Why? Because according to him, and it makes complete sense, very soon we're going to be replaced by artificial intelligence and machines. So, probably labs are going to replace doctors, and maybe these trackers are going to replace labs. So these mobile trackers we wear are going to give us
non-invasive testing.
Exactly.
And all of people can monitor their own.
So where does that leave somebody like you? And where does that leave doctors, and where does that leave scientists? And this is where the issue of human consciousness and working on emotions. So I think you guys are in the lead, at least from what I'm reading right now.
What we really hoped for on this journey is to return a sense of, as I said, fulfillment and wholeness to each individual in the company. Empowering them to give from the heart, not because there's a policy that says they have to do so. So going back to the community building, we decided that we defined two communities: the internal corporate, our MedLabs community, so our relations between each other, and then the external community, which is the people we serve. And we started changing even the way we audit became a shadowing exercise. The way we advertise became no advertising, it's just health awareness. The way we communicate is two-way engagement. So we turned things around. And then we came...
But you really changed things around, as opposed to others that, they hire these team building companies, consultants that come and do something once a month, and, we can write on paper, and when we publish our end of year report, we've had 3 community team building events, and you really do it.
No, we really do, and all the communication in the company is based on that.
So tell me more about the shadowing, because that falls under... Again, investment in human consciousness and human potential, because what you're doing is there's an element of mentorship and growth.
So rather than auditing and I'm gonna tick boxes
and I'm your boss and I'm judging you and
it turned into sort of a shadow, meaning that I'm there to monitor or not monitor, to support exactly on a learning journey with you and from me and vice versa. Human behavior, like how empathetic are you with each other, with your patients? It's not really about
even the relationship between the mentor and the mentee. I imagine
absolutely. So at any time when our shadowers would go and spend a day at the lab, it always ended with something that we have now completely adopted in MedLabs. Going back to this not being a one-time thing, it's internal, nobody external did this for us. Something called care circles. And a care circle is basically an informal meeting where there are no hierarchies. They're held, hopefully, we encourage our labs and even our staff and management to do this once a week. And there's one inspirational topic that's discussed. So it's not about... Yeah, it's a theme.
Okay.
So it's not about the work of today or what happened to the result from yesterday. No.
Give me an example for a theme.
We're going to talk about empathy.
Okay.
What does empathy mean to you? So everybody gets a turn thinking about this, and then thinking about it in relation to how we care for our patients. And
who decides the themes, and how do you...
We sent out a bunch of suggestions.
Okay.
They were all tied into the care model of MedLabs. So when I said south, east, northwest, the C is for community building. So we didn't get to the east. The east, we said HR should no longer be human resources. We're going to evolve it to awakening conscious evolution.
Do you think it made a difference when you changed the names?
It made a big difference. We started even changing the way we interview, the way we do orientation. We reoriented 450 staff to this whole mode of thinking. We started asking people in interviews about their purpose.
So your HR staff, did you find there was pushback, or was there like an intrigue? There was intrigue.
There definitely was intrigue. And by the way, when you just get beyond people's initial discomfort, I want to call it, not a negative discomfort, just it's because it's unusual to be asked.
It's
unheard of. When you get past that, you find that people have,
they're just waiting for somebody
to emotions or stories to share, or
especially that, again, going back to the issue of culture, it's inbuilt in us
from a very young age to avoid speaking about anything to do with emotion.
Yeah, it's very difficult.
Or to suppress emotion, even with our kids. Don't cry. Like, what can I do for you to stop crying?
Absolutely.
Versus, okay, what is this about? Let's talk about feelings. I mean, this is something unheard of. So I can't even imagine, you'd go to an HR person and say, listen, we're going to talk about empathy today.
And the step before that was that we asked every head of department to write a concept paper. So imagine it's head of IT or materials management, been there 20 years, and you say, write a concept paper about your purpose.
Do you give them guidelines?
We gave them basic guidelines, but some people say to me, I have no idea. And then after probing and probing, they'd come out with amazing stories of how their father inspired them, or how one of our directors was a chess champion, and how chess really influenced his life, or you find out all sorts of interesting things.